Feya didn't know why she had saved the girl. Maybe it was because they had the same face? She couldn't stand the sight of her crying either because it somehow made Feya feel weak too. Maybe it was this other presence, this feeling, this something that drew Feya to her like a moth to the flame. At first, she figured it was just a ripe reservoir of divinity that got her attention and led her to entering this apartment, but there could be much more between her and this other girl than just a matching face, it seems. Feya grabs the girl's wrist and pulls her toward the window. She isn't sure whether the woman in white is really gone or if she'll attack again. Feya's feet are already perched on the windowsill when 3 other girls barge into the room. She pulls her Corvid-themed mask over her face, hiding her identity. One of the girls, the one with blue hair and red eyes, looks at the dead body, then to Feya's doppelganger, and finally at Feya herself. The girl lets out an impossibly loud cry, and Feya feels the sound flutter through her feathers, ruffling the plumage briefly. She recognizes a subtle twitch in one of the girl's eyes, and Feya smirks, knowing she's forced the girl's anger to the surface. It would be too hard for anyone else to notice the red glaze over her crimson eyes, but Feya understood. No words are exchanged before the girl hurls a hammer in their direction.
Look out!
Her double yells, then yanks them out the window. Feya sees the hammer clip the girl's shoulder as they both fall. It should have been easy, but signs of life in the area dissuaded Feya from claiming the territory as her own at first. She usually scopes out the current occupants to see if they'd put up a fight or if just dropping her title would be enough. Once that's determined, she could strike, forcing the inhabitants to their knees and making them swear their loyalty to her, adding yet another domain to her growing map of territory. Not every run can be so perfect, though. Feya's been to countless other apartments and stolen plenty of stuff just fine before. Maybe overconfidence made her sloppy this time? Feya looks at her double, who's running a hand along her injured shoulder. She's the reason this all went to hell. Feya could count her losses and run away now, since the girl up in the apartment had clearly wanted a fight even before Feya encouraged her to make a move. It's the logical thing to do, and Feya likes to think she's got a good head on her shoulders. However, it's that feeling she gets from the girl at her side that keeps stopping her. Despite the whimpers, despite the trembling and the innocent-looking eyes, it's undeniable. Feya's drawn to her power and needs her loyalty for some strange reason.
Keep moving forward. It'll be the first town. You can't miss it,
Feya says to the lookalike. She really is a terribly annoying little thing, with the way her tears keep running down her face and how she whimpers softly into one hand constantly. It's more annoying than it would normally be simply because she looks like Feya, but without a single ounce of Feya's strength or grit. It had been sickening to see the way she had buckled when she saw his blood, how she fell to her knees and trembled. Hadn't she seen that kind of shit before? They don't exactly live in the safest of worlds after all. Whatever, it was none of Feya's business. At least, not yet.
Okay,
The girl says with a weak little sound. Is she still whining? Feya grits her teeth and pinches the bridge of her nose. Whatever she's doing, it bothers Feya immensely. The girl rubs her shoulder again. That hammer must have gotten her good.
Can we talk to them? They're my friends and they'll understand. Besides, Jesus, I need to go back and...
With an exasperated groan, Feya helps the girl to her feet.
Your friend is dead. Saw it yourself, didn't ya? Then without a question, that bitch threw her hammer at me. What the hell do you want? I'm not exactly keen on talking it out with her. She wants a fight? I'll give her a damn fight.
Feya says severely. She doesn't want to have to repeat herself.
But she's my...
Really, the girl is trying to reason with Feya once again? Isn't it clear how over this she is?
I don't care.
Feya glares at her other, weaker self.
That look in your friend's eyes when she threw that hammer at me. Have you ever seen that before?
The lookalike glances to Feya, then looks away and shakes her head just a tiny bit.
That's what I thought.
Feya sighs and shakes her head.
She tried to kill me back there. Had you not intervened, I don't know what would have happened.
Feya is lying, but she does so confidently, sure her gullible other half will believe her easily.
You can feel our bond is strong, right?
Her crimson hair sways to one side as she tilts her head in the girl's direction.
Now that we've come together, we shouldn't part. Do you really think someone who wants to kill me without any hesitation is really that agreeable?
Feya rolls her shoulders and begins bouncing on the balls of her feet, pumping herself up for the upcoming fight, since those girls from the apartment have no doubt started following them.
Besides, I saw the look on your face when you came into the room. Something was bothering you. So between that, your friend's berserk button, and your other friend getting wasted, I don't feel that apartment is going to be a very safe place for you anymore. So...
Feya looks at her and emphasizes each of her next words with a point forward.
Get your ass moving.
They stand there, staring at each other through Feya's mask. The girl's soft sapphire eyes look as though they're searching Feya's sea-colored ones for something. Feya's gaze flits away. Several moments drag by, and Feya coughs.
Well?
Her doppelganger lets out a tiny little sigh as she looks up at Feya. Their eyes meet again, but this time Feya stays resolute.
Trust me, alright? I've been down this road with people, friends, time and time again. It'll hurt for now, but eventually...
Okay. Well, look at that. The whiny bitch is finally complying. Thank whatever deities are responsible for that. The girl looks at Feya for another moment before she turns into a crow without warning and flies off in the ordered direction. Well, okay then, she can shapeshift too. Duly noted. The similarities between the two seem to be growing every minute. Feya hears the earth shifting behind her, and what even sounds like trees coming down in the distance as the girl flies away. Feya looks over her shoulder when her double is gone and confirms her suspicions. Damn, those bitches are coming up fast. She can't fight the grin growing on her face, but if she isn't careful, she'll make herself stupid with excitement, and then she'll be more likely to make sloppy mistakes. Judging from the likes of her whiny doppelganger, however, these girls wouldn't be much to deal with. She'll make quick work of them, then get them to buckle and swear their fealty to her in 10 minutes, she bets. With the thought of all of the divinity she can get from them, the other patrons of the apartment, and her double, Feya's mouth starts to water. And there they are, emerging from a dust cloud after tearing down several trees in their path, which is totally unnecessary in her opinion. Feya looks them over carefully when they all stop before her. They have pretty solid stances overall, which means they should at least know how to fight decently. The girl with the twin braids and the hammer stands front and center. This bitch, she didn't even try to get Feya's name or ask what she was doing there before attacking. She just saw that dead asshole and assumed Feya must have done it. Doesn't she know how much of a waste that would have been? Yeah, Feya could have killed him and stolen his divinity, but fealty is so much better. It gives her a lackey who can then go around and collect even more divinity for her, so why waste a perfectly good subordinate? She'd be sure to instill that lesson in this girl once she made a slave out of her. Looking at their little group, the blue girl looks like she's probably their leader, or at least the most aggressive of them. She stands there staring at Feya with this cold little look. Is that supposed to be intimidating? Feya's not expecting a smile, but at least give her a good, hard glare, especially considering the girl thinks Feya murdered her friend and all. There's a green-haired mummy to the girl's right who drops a sarcophagus down at her side. Just a shot in the dark, but Feya guesses that's her weapon. She barely looks awake, so Feya doubts she'll be much of an asset to the others in combat. Last on her radar is the curvy purple-haired girl. Feya doesn't really know why she's smiling like that, but maybe it's an attempt at a show of confidence. Her arms are crossed, and she's just standing there casually, one hip cocked to the side. It's obviously a ruse. She's clearly leaving herself open on purpose in hopes that Feya will attack her without realizing she has some kind of plan.
Okay, before y'all do something you're gonna regret, I thought I should at least make my case first.
Feya says with a confident smirk. She plans to make a big to-do out of showing them she isn't afraid. She's fought and beaten much bigger foes, though she probably shouldn't judge a book by its cover at this point, judging by her own success rate.
I didn't kill your friend. This lady in white randomly appeared and...
What the hell did you do to me back there?
The girl with the braid steps forth.
I had no inclination to attack, but then I saw you and I saw nothing but red.
She raises her hammer and shakes her head as though trying to clear her mind.
Where's Anna?
She asks, voice flat.
Anna, you're talking about the other girl who was in the room?
The girl steps forward again, her hammer still pointed in Feya's direction.
Return her to me. Now.
She orders, completely deadpan. Feya chuckles.
Wow, you don't sound very motivated. Is she really that important to you? I sure as hell can't tell.
She gives no answer, just narrows her crimson eyes at Feya. Feya's eyes bounce back to the other two, and it looks like the purple one moved while Feya was focused on that hammer. The mummy is still in the same spot at least, so that's good. Feya needs to keep track of all their movements, so she can't let her guard down for even a second.
So you don't even care that What's-His-Face was straight up murdered? Wow, that's a surprise there.
She goads them before quickly changing topics.
So your friend's name is Anna.
Feya taps her chin thoughtfully.
Yeah, Anna seems pretty torn up about the whole thing. Maybe you're just playing cool. If it hurts, you can just let it out.
Feya pauses and shakes her head after a moment.
For someone who cares so much about Anna, you had no problem hurting her. Your reckless behavior with that hammer of yours is causing her a lot of pain. If grazing her did that much damage, just imagine what would have happened if you actually hit her with it. We'd probably be cleaning Anna off the walls, just like the other guy.
Feya laughs.
Maybe she's safer with me, away from people who throw weapons at her. Can you believe how that girl reacted when she saw death? Just how coddled has she been? It's pathetic. You guys are raising a complete coward. A coward with that face.
Feya narrows her eyes.
Do you know how offensive that is? So yeah, maybe I'll keep her. I'd whip her into shape.
There it is, the first reaction. The hammer-toting girl's stoic stare falters momentarily. There's no denying it. Feya catches that subtle twitch of her eye. It's time to make the offer.
Look, I'll cut you a deal. You obviously call the shots around here. You look smart enough. I'll give you Anna back, and maybe even offer my assistance in avenging her other friend. You just have to do one thing for me.
Feya wags a finger teasingly at the three girls. Hammer Girl seems to remain resolute and refuses to lower her weapon. Her impassive eyes lock on Feya's corvid mask. Maybe it's time for the big reveal then.
Swear fealty to me, all of you. Give me domination over that apartment and all who are in it. I'm only going to make you this offer once. You don't want to get on my bad side of Morgan, the Phantom Queen!
As Feya finishes speaking, she pulls her mask back, revealing her face to her opponents, anticipating their reactions with relish. Of the three girls, however, the only one who so much as blinks is the hammer-toting Acer. Her cold stare melts away briefly as her lips part. Something escapes her, a gasp, a sigh, a whimper. Maybe it's the news that she's the Phantom Queen, the reality of it setting in faster for her than for the others who might initially doubt Feya's claim based on her short stature. Then again, it might be something else. It could be that her face resembles that of Anna so closely. Whatever the case, she's definitely psyched out their leader, which should work to her advantage.
Oh, look, it's Anna.
The mummy's voice is quiet, barely audible.
Hi, Anna.
She turns to the other two.
Look, I found Anna. We can go home now.
No, that definitely isn't her.
The Acer responds. Suddenly, her determined look returns. Her eyes narrow and focus on Feya, and she hears the sound of leather giving in under a tightening grip. Whatever shook the Acer has passed. Feya tries to hide her own surprise, but probably does a terrible job at it because she can feel her confident expression contort momentarily into one of disbelief. Granted, it does make some sense. They'd all grown accustomed to her face through Anna, so of course when they see Feya, they don't see the Phantom Queen, but their little friend instead.
That's annoying.
Feya sighs under her breath. The purple-haired one starts chuckling. Did she notice Feya falter? Feya looks over to check, only to see a haughty expression on the girl's face and a smirk curling her lips.
So that's your weakness, Your pride? Adorable.
She speaks in a refined manner as though she's better than everyone, and boy, is that annoying. As that final word passes her lips, the purple-haired girl's image then fades from sight. In her place is a mere spear, rusted over and stabbed deep into the ground. Feya inwardly panics. This was some sort of bait and switch, an illusion? When did the change happen? Feya looks back to see the girl with the hammer suddenly charging towards her. Feya only then notices how defenseless she is. Feya's eyes widen as she sees the girl go for an uppercut with the hammer. They lock eyes, cold sapphire and hot crimson meeting. Just before the hammer can connect with Feya's body, though, her opponent spins, instead delivering a kick to Feya's stomach. Feya was completely open, and she wouldn't have survived the full force of that swing, she can tell that much. The girl had spared her, but probably not out of kindness. If she dies, they might never find their friend, after all. Feya goes careening through several trees before hitting the ground and skidding to a stop. She slowly picks herself up. She's covered in bruises and cuts now, but her injuries begin to heal on their own, and she gets to her feet. Off in the distance, obscured by a mix of the blanket of night and several thickets of treetop foliage, Feya sees something glowing. It ignites like a flame, a cool blue that pierces the darkness. It moves toward Feya slowly, malevolently. Feya braces herself when she hears the Hammer Girl's voice from the darkness.
For a moment there, you might have actually had me going.
She steps out into Feya's view, her right eye surrounded by that blue flame.
However, once I got a good look at you, I was able to see right through you.
Oh yeah?
Feya shouts back, balling her hands into fists.
That was a pretty lucky hit. Crazier shit has happened in a 3-on-1.
Feya hikes a thumb underneath her nose. Even if she's impressed, she can't let her confidence waver. Not again.
At this point, you're quickly exhausting any potential options you might have had earlier.
The girl tilts her head to the side as she speaks, as though sizing Feya up with that fiery eye of hers, but not really caring what she finds in the end.
You've given Anna orders to run to one of your domains. There's a lot of branching possibilities, but given how you've handled yourself, I'm going to assume you've chosen the simplest path, the closest domain she can reach on foot.
She points her hammer at Feya as she makes her guess. Feya remains calm, exhales softly, and tries to keep the smirk on her face. She's about to speak when the hammer girl continues.
So then, are you going to comply?
The hammer girl steps forward.
Give me Anna and leave her alone. Forever.
Your reverse psychology is terrible. That's only making me want her more. She's got my face, and obviously there's something special about her if you're working this hard to get her back.
One of the girl's hands runs along a dangling blue braid. She has a detached beauty, cold and untouchable, like she knows she's beautiful and couldn't care less. Her words are just as icy and creep from her mouth like bugs drawn to light at dusk.
Midgard.
She laments.
This realm collects idiots at an alarming rate.
She shakes her head, her braids whipping about.
Only an idiot would view people solely by their potential value and worth. That will lead you straight down the most probable path to complete and utter loneliness. Anna isn't someone special because of what she can do, but rather because of who she is. She is someone precious to me. I must get her back at all cost.
Feya can't help but snicker at the way these girls wear their hearts on their sleeves. They may all be older, but Feya's sure none of them could have lasted a day in her shoes. The world's much too harsh to grow so attached to a single person.
Want to know the difference between a fool and an idiot?
The hammer girl arches a thin eyebrow. Feya appears behind her in an instant, no doubt alarming the other girl with her speed.
The dumber of the two always thinks there's a difference.
Feya drives an elbow back toward the hammer girl's head. Hammer girl reacts quicker than Feya expects, though, sending an upturned palm back and catching the attack. Both girls spin in toward one another. Their knees meet in another clash, and even in that quick exchange, Feya can feel her bones nearly vibrating from the force of the impact. She had assumed their strength would be evenly matched, given their similar builds, but this girl is clearly stronger. Much stronger. Feya throws a punch, her shot clear. Her opponent raises her hammer just in time, and Feya's fist slams into it full force. A shockwave of electricity fires off from the girls, leveling several rows of trees and splintering the ground beneath them. Feya uses the newly formed debris to her advantage and begins kicking any nearby boulders she can reach at the girl. They go flying toward her opponent, but all meet the same fate at the end of her blunt weapon. Whatever, it was just supposed to keep her busy while Feya transformed anyway. Feya's arms and legs are suddenly covered in a thick coat of black feathers, and her legs contort and morph into razor-sharp talons. In this new harpy form, Feya takes to the sky. Feya wouldn't normally run away from a fight this early, but the purple-haired girl had disappeared a while ago and was probably trying to catch up to Anna. Something crosses her mind for just a second. Why not just let Anna go with them? They were obviously her friends, so she'd be happiest with them. Another thought quickly dashes that away, though.
Not everyone can be happy.
Now resolute, Feya prepares to fly off in the direction she sent Anna when she hears the hammer girl's voice.
Kebechet, now!
Feya feels a gust of wind rocket past her, nearly spinning her around. Feya looks down and sees that the mummy's positioning has finally changed. She's standing atop a nearby tree now, the sarcophagus still at her side. Feya wonders how the mummy got into position without her noticing. Perhaps she's been waiting since her earlier tussle with the hammer girl, the green of her hair having camouflaged her until now. Whatever the case, she's in the perfect position to knock Feya out of the sky.
Okay, Throoth.
When given the order, the mummy, apparently named Kebechet, lightly kicks the sarcophagus, causing it to shoot open. A number of bandages that seem to extend on forever shoot from the open sarcophagus. They rocket toward Feya, and she's unable to avoid them in time. She ends up entangled in the wrappings, looking back to see Kebechet give one forceful tug on the bindings. Feya curses as Kebechet yanks her from the sky. Feya thrashes against the wrappings, but they're so tight around her she can't flap her wings at all. She lets out a small cry as she slams down into the trees below. A sturdy branch breaks her fall, though it leaves her aching. Feya writhes about, trying to free herself, because it won't be long before they're on her again. Feya's feathers start to ruffle of their own accord, which isn't exactly helping. That's it. She takes a moment to concentrate, altering her feathers so they're as sharp as knives. Now she's able to shred herself free with a simple spin. She quickly returns to her regular form, a few wraps still hanging loosely from her while she picks herself up. Groaning, Feya scrambles up a tree and begins hopping from branch to branch without wasting any time. She tries to use the leaves as camouflage the best she can so she won't have to confront the Hammer Girl directly before she's ready. Feya hears trees collapsing behind her now, alerting her that they're still on her tail. Focusing on a point far ahead, Feya speeds up. She's flown through these trees hundreds of times, so she knows all the shortcuts and the best ways to lose someone in this forest. The girls are outmatched, and she'll be fine. She has to be. By now, she's traversed miles in just under a minute. As she lands on the next tree branch, she notices something that makes her blood run cold. There's a spear stabbed into the tree she's standing on. She glances around and notices spears pierced into every branch and tree in the surrounding area before suddenly hearing that same haughty laugh from earlier. Each spear glows briefly before detonating in a small, powerful blast, one after another in a steadily growing chain reaction. Feya reflexively puts her arms up, but knows in the back of her mind that she can't take all this damage unscathed. The massive force of the golden explosions send Feya careening through the trees, colliding with branches along the way, which burn to ash in the flames of the attack. One after another, the spears explode, until there isn't much left of that patch of forest but a smoldering crater, and a heavily damaged Feya lying in the center of it.
Damn it!
Feya coughs and tries to pick herself up, but to no avail. Her body simply isn't ready to get up yet. The sound of footsteps cause Feya to look over her shoulder, and she sees the purple-haired girl walking toward her at a leisurely pace. The girl comes to a stop at Feya's side and peers down at her, looking like she's hardly out of breath. Feya's wounds start to heal once more, so the very moment she feels up to the challenge of moving, she attempts to sweep out the purple-haired girl's legs. As her leg comes in contact with the other girl, however, her image fades, turning out to be just another spear. Hitting that spear causes several more to rain down from above, stabbing around Feya's body and into her clothing, locking her in place. The last spear narrowly misses her head, stopping just shy of her right cheek. One drop of blood squeezes out before it heals. The purple-haired girl finally makes her true appearance, or so it seems until proven otherwise. She lands right on top of the spear closest to Feya's head and speaks calmly, as if Feya is a small child.
Your tenacity is quite fearsome.
She steps down from the spear and crouches near Feya, leaning in toward her and smiling down at her like Feya is terribly amusing.
But it's dangerous when mixed with such reckless pride. From now on, consider the possibility that you can be outmatched.
I was outnumbered.
Feya spits.
Enough with the damn possibilities already. It's getting really annoying.
Lesson number 2. A loss is a loss, regardless of the circumstances.
She wags a finger as though she's reprimanding Feya like a naughty student who refuses to listen. Who the hell does this bitch think she is, talking down to her like this?
Someone out to take your life isn't going to be looking for an excuse when they want to kill you.
The purple-haired girl's head tilts slightly to the right, her hair swishing back and forth behind her. There's nothing but mercy in her deep gray eyes. Feya scoffs. So this girl is smart enough to trap her, but hadn't made any demands, nor even a motion to finish the job. These girls clearly must not know the first thing about survival. They aren't like Feya then. They haven't seen what she's seen. They don't know what she's been through, what anyone like her has been through.
Now, just take it easy,
the purple-haired girl whispers, holding a hand out toward one of her spears, as though she's going to free Feya.
We just want to ask you some questions. All we want to know is what happened to our friend back at the apartment, and where our other friend is. That's it.
Well, he's dead. And your other friend is somewhere. There, how is that for answering your questions?
The girl's perfect-looking, unscratched digits touch one of the spears, and the whole mess of them start to contort in a flash of brilliant golden-hued energy. They shift and bend and constrict until they form a cage that surrounds Feya. The girl sighs as she stands up, dusts herself off, then sits atop the cage.
You may look like Anna, but where she's sweet, you seem completely sour.
At this point, all Feya can see is the girl's legging-clad limbs swinging back and forth from between the bars. Now that the spears aren't sticking her to the ground, Feya can escape. Sure, the bars are clearly too small for her to get through, but that's only given her current size and shape. Feya inches toward the bars, crawling on all fours, but just as she reaches out, she hears the girl's voice again.
Why is that? Is something wrong?
The spear girl's question dances through the air, and it stops Feya in her tracks. A brief thought comes to mind. Eyes dull with hatred and hands balled into fists. There's blood everywhere. They're mostly bleeding from the head, and she looks down at her hands covered in the same substance. Once a memory, now a nightmare.
Athena!
The Hammer Girl's voice brings Feya back to herself. Feya acts quickly, ducking down and crawling forward as her body begins to change. Muscles move out of the way for bone as they shift into new, drastically different positions. Her mass shrinks and dark hair sprout from all over her pale skin. Feya, now a rat, is small enough to escape her makeshift prison. She scurries forward quickly, slipping through the bars with ease.
Get out of the way. I need to get a good look at her. I need to see what she'll do next.
She hears the Hammer Girl command as she's leaving the cage. Feya's tiny rat hairs stand up on end, and a quick look over her shoulder grants her the sight of all three girls just now noticing she's getting away, angry and full of disbelief that they've already been outwitted. Tiny squeaks of laughter come from the rat as she hears the beginnings of an argument building among the girls. Using this to her advantage, Feya scurries out of sight behind boulders and debris left over from the recent explosions, trying to find her way through tiny crevices toward freedom.
You couldn't sense her moving around in your cage?
Hammer Girl starts while shoving the spear-toting one.
Why would you sit on top of it? Did you deserve a break?
Don't give me that. I'm the one who captured her. You, even with your vision, let her get away.
I let her get away because I foresaw you catching her later.
But you didn't foresee me letting her get away? I guess, like with anything, you can choose what you see and what you don't,
The argument, the conflict, the building strife in that moment sends pleasurable ruffles through Feya's fur. If things are going to get this juicy, she doesn't think she wants to leave after all.
You should have kept your eyes on her.
You should always keep your eyes on.
Athena, Throoth,
The mummy's quiet voice eases flatly through the air around them.
she's getting away. Do we still need to catch her?
Feya's eyes widen. Her power hadn't hidden her from the mummy? Even though it's tempting to stay around and feed on the thick tension between the girls, with their anger turned on her again, the anger she stoked in them is now a danger to her rather than a boon, and that's not a pleasant feeling at all. Feya makes it several feet away in rat form before changing back into a girl. There's one more quick look sent over her shoulder, and she can see all three girls behind her. Throoth, Athena, and the mummy. Shit, they're closing in again. Feya quickly transforms once more, returning to falcon form and taking to the sky. They're chasing her now. She can hear them. The forest sounds like it's crumbling behind her from the force of their anger as they try to follow her. That anger was all their own now, because there's no way her powers could still work on them from this far away. They want her bad this time, even if it's just for questioning. The way they care about that other girl, Anna, makes it clear they'll hurt Feya plenty just to get their friend back. There is one last thing she can do, however, because fighting the three of them just isn't an option. Feya starts swooping about the sky, flapping with more force than necessary, and occasionally dipping through the trees, causing some of her feathers to fall behind her that leave a trail the other girls will hopefully follow. The chase doesn't last long before Feya lures them right where she wants them, her own domain. It's a deserted old town that's barely standing, with black feathers coating everything. It's here that Feya chooses to land, hiding among the many piles of debris. She glances past an overturned streetlight to see the three girls stop just feet away from her hiding place, violent intent emanating from them.
Anything look familiar, Throoth? Did you see any of this in your vision?
Athena asks while peeking around the corner of some single-floor building that didn't even make an effort to stay standing. They all start walking around aimlessly, reaching out and touching the buildings occasionally, their eyes scanning for clues. The mummy is the only one who looks at home in this kind of desolate place. The other two look uneasy.
Kind of.
Throoth responds in a near whisper.
The last look I got at her was a mere glimpse. I just saw the direction she was headed in. Even then, there were a trail of feathers anyway. So I'm almost certain she's here.
Throoth sighs and reaches up to stroke one of her long braids again, finding comfort in the habit.
We have to be careful when she's around her. She did something to my mind. Made me attack her when I walked in the room. I don't know, she made me see red. While I was like that, I couldn't even think about seeing her. I just wanted to attack.
Throoth exhales and brushes a hand through her bangs.
I could have hurt Anna.
Hey, don't beat yourself up.
Athena calls to her gently.
Even you can't see everything coming. Now come on, let's keep looking for Anna.
Athena reaches down and gingerly picks up one of the feathers between her fingers.
Cheeky?
Athena scoffs, examining the feather curiously.
A warning?
She casts a quick look over her shoulder before tossing the feather aside. Feya can see her domain through each and every feather throughout the town, her own personal surveillance system. They aren't just on the ground outside, but on and in each and every tumbled building as well.
Looks like our duplicate gave us the slip at some point. But now I'm really wondering about that spell she cast on you, Throoth.
Athena rubs her chin in thought.
I couldn't really feel that much divinity radiating from her. I had no idea she was a spellcaster.
She looks in Throoth's direction again.
You really didn't see any of that coming?
Throoth looks at Athena and pushes one of her braids over a shoulder.
In combat, I only have time to search out the most effective immediate solutions. I wasn't able to see this far ahead. She got out of my range of vision anyway.
Slowly, her crimson eyes begin to narrow.
By the time I did show up and see what she could do, there was no way any of us could avoid it. It happened once. It will not happen again.
Feya scans all of her territory while she has the chance and tries not to smile, though it's impossible not to bare her little fangs. Anna isn't even here.
Anna!
Throoth calls out after taking several hesitant steps forward.
Anna, are you here? Can you hear me? We're here! We've come to take you home! This girl won't hurt you anymore!
Throoth leaps up onto one of the more stable buildings. Maybe she thinks the height can help her find where Anna might be hiding? How funny. Feya snickers as she finally steps out from her hiding place. Athena and the mummy see her right away. Good.
I found Anna again.
Kebechet points at Feya and slowly looks at her comrades, then slowly back to Feya before realizing what's going on and lowering her hand.
Oh, you are not Anna. I'm sorry.
Oh, look, it's our little friend again.
Athena says, crossing her arms and turning to face Feya.
Is something funny?
Feya just shakes her head and grins in the direction of the violet-haired godling.
No, I'm just thinking about how funny it would be if Anna never came to my domain. Or worse, she never even made it here. The world is harsh out there, and I think I'm starting to understand why you're all so protective of her.
Feya pauses when she sees Athena narrow her eyes. Got her.
The two of us are dead ringers for the Phantom Queen, albeit a fun-sized version. Yeah, people have wanted to flay me just because of my hair and eye color. The biggest difference between Anna and I is that I never give them a chance. Can't say the same about your sweet little Annie.
Throoth leaps from atop the building she's on and lands before Feya, her hammer clenched tight between rough-looking fingers. She reaches forward and grabs Feya by the front of her scruffy shirt, pulling her forward and lifting Feya off her feet with ease. Their eyes lock.
Don't say another word.
Throoth threatens coldly.
If you continue, then I'll...
You'll what?
Feya challenges, a deranged little smirk curling across her face.
You can see different outcomes and possibilities, right? I kinda picked up on that after a while. So that means you can see it clearly, can't you? You can see what the hell will happen to someone like Anna if she gets lost out there.
Feya starts chuckling and Throoth's narrowed eyes twitch.
She'll be ripped apart.
Throoth raises her hammer and Athena and Kebechet both step in, arms raised, but they hesitate. They have no reason to stop her, after all, since they believe Anna is now lost out there somewhere. There is nothing Feya can give them now in regards to their friend, so they should just get it over with and kill her already, so they can take all the divinity and territory Feya has worked for.
How long does a flower that blooms after the apocalypse last?
Feya asks, staring expectantly at Throoth. Throoth swings the hammer down, all her strength behind the blow. Feya braces for impact, even though she knows that as soon as the weapon connects that it's all over, she'll be gone, completely obliterated in one hit. That mighty weapon stops just a hair shy of Feya's forehead at the very last second, however. Feya doesn't flinch or even blink as the weapon halts right in front of her eyes. She stares at Throoth, completely confident in the play she just made. Throoth trembles, her hammer still just a hair's breadth from Feya's face. The moment stretches on in silence.
I knew it.
Feya gloats at last when it's clear Throoth is not going to kill her.
I frickin' knew it. You can't do it. You can't hurt me because of my face.
Athena and Kebechet look to Throoth, who steps away, her fingers letting go of Feya's collar.
You can't hit me? 'Cause I look like Anna.
Feya continues, really rubbing it in now. She glances at Kebechet, who's on her right, then to Athena on her left.
What's more amazing is that you're standing in my domain right now.
Throoth's eyes widen, then immediately narrow. Her right eye shuts, and when it reopens, a powerful azure blaze has reignited over her crimson gaze. But what good is that to her now, when Feya's already won? Feya breaks away from Throoth with newfound ease and jumps at Kebechet and Athena, delivering a powerful spinning kick to the mummy before thrusting her palm hard into Athena's abdomen. Athena manages to summon a spear to guard against most of the impact, but still goes flying back several feet. Kebechet, less prepared, shatters from the blow, her arms breaking from her torso as the rest of her body goes flying into a nearby building. In a god's own domain, they are exactly that, a god, and Feya demonstrates her own magnified power by simply throwing up a hand and summoning a huge gale that blasts through the immediate area. The strong winds pick up the feathers and cause them to whip around violently, which she stiffens and makes as sharp as knives. They slash at the girls and slice open both skin and cloth, putting both Athena and Throoth on the defensive and forcing them to use their weapons to knock away the majority of the attacks. Feya knew they'd stop focusing on her in favor of surviving, so this is more of a distraction than a full-on attack. Even in her domain, Feya doesn't think she'd be able to defeat the three girls by herself, and with the divinity among the three of them, they could no doubt take over her domain easily, so getting out of here is her best option for now. Feya's distraction won't stay active for long, but that doesn't matter, because when those winds do finally die down, she'll be long gone. Feya rummages through Anna's apartment once more, grabbing what she can before the other girls escape her trap. After searching for little over 10 minutes, she's gathered twice the haul she did initially. Once she finishes emptying Anna's fridge, she continues on to the next room.
Wow, this girl really likes pink.
Feya says aloud as she observes Anna's sugary sweet room. Despite Anna's apparent age, her room is orderly. In fact, it's so tidy that Feya feels a bit of reservation about moving anything, given how meticulously placed it all seems. Not really knowing why, Feya walks over to Anna's bed and sits down on it experimentally. It's soft, kind of like Anna herself, so it's pretty fitting. Feya falls back on the bed and her eyes meet the ceiling. In the instant her head hits the pillow, she feels her feathers tremble. Like spines, Feya's feathers harden to a point, a defensive measure at a time when Feya could afford to be defenseless. All it would take is a shift in her positioning, and she'd shred all the bright-colored blankets Anna left neatly folded on her bed. A slight turn of her head puts Anna's collection of stuffed animals in her gaze. There's an intentional order to the plushies, as they are not only arranged smallest to largest, but by species as well. Feya quickly looks away from them. Without caring to pick one in particular, she grabs a stuffed animal and holds it against her chest. When Feya looks down, she's greeted by the sight of 2 button eyes on a green felt sock. Even though it doesn't look it in the slightest, Feya assumes it's supposed to be a frog. Exhaling softly, Feya lets her gaze slowly return to the cracked ceiling. Her grip tightens around the plushie.
What were they thinking giving you this kind of stuff?
Slowly, the spines draping along Feya's collar begin to soften and return to their feathery form. She lays there briefly with the plush held tightly in her arms. Just to feel what Anna might have felt, she closes her eyes. When Feya sits up, she turns her head and her eyes fall on Anna's dresser where a framed picture sits. A photo proudly displaying Anna and her friends burns in Feya's lingering sight. They look happy, and that pisses Feya off. Without much thought, Feya reaches forward and grips the frame with both hands. It's too perfect. They're too perfect. Everyone smiles, and it's like they don't even know the kind of sacrifices others make to live in the harsh world around them. There's the tremble again, and Feya's feathers start to harden. If only her plumage could do their little dance of discord and affect the happiness in this framed memory. Despite how the picture makes her feel, Feya holds on to it even as she prepares to leave Anna's room. With the picture frame in one hand and the frog plush in the other, Feya lurks towards the door. Her footsteps are heavy and drag against the ground. Even though she's only been in Anna's room for a little while, she's finding it hard to leave. Maybe it's something deep inside of her, a yearning for this kind of life. But she'd like to doubt that. Instead, she thinks there's credence to her words from earlier, that she and Anna share some kind of bond. It isn't Feya that wants to stand behind, it's Anna, but Feya's able to feel it. When Feya's almost past the door frame, she stops. Taking one more look at the picture in her hand, she sighs, then tosses it onto the bed. This kind of thing won't do Anna any good. Memories, especially happy ones, bog down the mind and make it harder to act, unlike bad memories, which somehow make it easier to do all the bad things one needs to do to survive. Feya returns to the living room where the 2 pillowcases await her. She puts the plushie into one of them, then hoists both over her shoulders. Heading toward the window, Feya has to pass the dead guy's body again. With one foot perched on the windowsill, Feya stops to look down at him. She shakes her head once. Then, with a sigh, she steps down. Feya finds Anna crouched in an alleyway a couple towns over. Thanks to the large supply of surveillance feathers Feya has scattered about, she was able to remain calm during the latter part of the fight because she knew Anna had actually made it to the area safely. That had been one less thing to worry about during the battle, at least on her end.
All right, that's enough sulking. Get up.
Slowly, sadly, Anna looks up at Feya. Her eyes are red and puffy, apparently from crying the whole time she's been hiding here. Feya coughs and looks away, not wanting to look into that sad face for too long.
I said stand up. I need help carrying the food.
She tosses one of the large pillowcases down at Anna's feet. She waits impatiently, tapping her foot until Anna does finally stand. The girl whimpers with every little move she makes, and tries to pick up the bag but winces, dropping it and reaching for her injured shoulder.
Useless.
Feya mutters and reaches down, grabbing the bag. She tosses it back over her free shoulder and begins walking. Feya doesn't look back, doesn't even need to with all the feathers around. Anna moves stiffly, each step coming off the ground less and less. Her gaze doesn't leave the ground once, and the fingers of one hand rub nervously at her shoulder, while her other hand clings sheepishly to her skirt. Feya can't tell if she's nervous, frightened, upset, or all of those at once. She could ask what's wrong, but frankly, she doesn't care. Well, and she already knows. It's rather obvious, isn't it? As they walk, they pass rusted cars and corpses picked clean. Signs of battle are clear throughout the area, a war zone from years long gone with no one to record it as history. Feya eventually tries to make small talk, to add some life to the walk.
Your friends are pretty good.
Through her feathers, she sees Anna peek up at her. She can see every angle of the girl's face now, and it looks like they really are identical, with the exception of that innocent glint that remains in Anna's eyes. Though if Feya isn't mistaken, it's a little less bright than when they first met.
What happened? Are they okay? You didn't hurt them, did you?
Anna asks.
Don't worry, I left them alive. I obviously made it here in one piece. Not bad, considering there were 3 of them. And they were all trying to kill me.
Feya laughs loudly, and if she wasn't holding anything, she'd pound on her chest right now and give a victory cry.
They're all smart. Well, except for the mummy. But I don't think mummies have brains, so that's a given. But yeah, the curvy one and the blue-haired girl were pretty good. Both seemed smart. Just weren't street smart enough to keep up with me. Is everyone in that apartment as sheltered as you?
Anna doesn't reply, just goes back to sulking and staring at the ground as they proceed. Feya sighs. They're coming up on their destination pretty soon, so she leaves Anna with something to think about.
You kept running, huh? You didn't go to the place I told you, but that isn't what bothers me.
Feya stops at the steps of a dilapidated cathedral. Her grip tightens around the bags in her arms.
You didn't even try to go back to your friends. Even now you're here, following me. Why?
Feya doesn't wait around for an answer, though she certainly seems to have caught Anna's attention, noticing her twin looking up from the ground. Feya drops one of the pillowcases of food in front of Anna.
Stay here, I'll be back,
she orders as she heads into the cathedral. Dealing with Throoth took the entire night, so the first signs of morning are already shining through the roofless sanctuary. Feya maneuvers around the familiar pews, all flipped over and turned every which way. She can already hear the faint mewling.
Yeah, I'm coming,
Feya says, reaching into the pillowcase and pulling out a red spherical food. She thinks it's an apple. She tastes it. Definitely an apple. She makes her way up to the podium at the center of the church. There, she finds the whining clump of blankets nestled in a bed of black feathers. She starts peeling back the white sheets while chewing away at the apple.
I'm done. Food's almost done,
she says while chomping away. Feya closes her eyes, opens her mouth, and extends her tongue forward, and, like a mama bird, lets the wet, chewed-up food slide down her tongue and out of her mouth.
What are you doing?
Anna's voice startles Feya. Feya tenses visibly, then forces herself to relax, trying to look nonchalant. Turning her entire body, she watches her duplicate walk up. Her tongue is still out of her mouth, and the chewed-up apple hangs by a saliva strand. How did Anna sneak over without Feya noticing? Right, she has to be more alert from now on. She tended to let her guard down most during this time of day. Anna stares at Feya and blinks once. She looks down to the crying bundle of blankets and blinks again. She looks back at Feya and blinks.
Are you trying to feed that baby chewed-up apple?
Anna pauses for several seconds and then screams. Feya spits the apple out and waves her hands to try and quiet her down while shaking her head wildly. Anna points frantically at the blankets, at the baby. Yeesh, she's still screaming.
You have a
baby?
Anna exclaims, her sad expression gone in favor of a look of complete surprise. Feya shuffles in place awkwardly, fingers tugging at her unruly red hair.
Well, clearly it's...
Anna looks at the little creature in its feathered creche. She hesitantly attempts to reach for it. Feya immediately steps over and slaps Anna's hands away. She places herself firmly between Anna and the nest, glaring.
What the hell? Are you an idiot? You mean you can't tell?
Feya reaches into the nest and pulls out the brown-skinned baby. She takes the baby beneath its arms and holds the crying thing up to show it to Anna.
Look, can't you see? Look at it.
Anna shakes her head and examines the baby more closely.
Say what? That's a baby that you wrapped in blankets in it. Why does it smell like that?
Anna steps back, covering her nose. Feya nods her head and determinedly repeats,
It smells.
with emphasis, like she's just proved a point. Meanwhile, the baby starts crying and writhing around in a panic in Feya's strong grasp. Anna tries to reach for the baby again, but recoils quickly, presumably due to the smell.
Smells?
Feya nods again, still wearing that same resolute look on her face.
Smells!
Anna's eyes widen. Aha! So she gets it. The girls look into their mirror's eyes, and Feya grins a little.
It's a mortal baby!